Good afternoon. It's, as everybody has said so far, a great honor to be here. As an elected official, a public official, they often tell you the things not to do. And one of the things they always said is never follow an animal act or any young child with a musical instrument if you have to speak. I'm going to add slam poetry to the list. She was really great, and it was a real honor to be with Jim. So a lot of what's been talked about, particularly the scientists today, have been very future-looking. And I'm going to get to the future eventually. It's in the title of my presentation. But I want to do something first, and that's to try and connect us to our past as Americans. There was a French historian who was touring America in 1830, quite a while ago. And he said there was something special about America from all that he had seen. He was there really to do a comparison of democracy in America at its sort of earliest stages and how it was comparing to many different things happening on the continent in Europe. And one of the things he said that made America special, although he was also critical in many respects, said America's a special place because there's self-interest well understood. That there really is this civic virtue that's about helping yourself by ensuring that other people are doing well also. It was more of a rural time and a rural community, and so people would help each other raise barns, or they might put sandbags along a riverside to keep it from flooding onto somebody else's property. But it was self-interest well understood. In other words, it wasn't just thinking about your own sort of naked self-interest. It was, what's the self-interest of the people in this room? And if we want to reduce it to something that we might understand differently or better, it's really trying to find common ground among those of us who care about ourselves but care deeply about other people and about their well-being, about their livelihood, and about their future. Self-interest well understood today is a far different concept because of globalization. We saw a couple of years ago the different big significant economies in both the United States and Europe crashing, and the interconnectedness of the entire world's economy. It's kind of one domino after another, and you got this idea that self-interest, well understood, meant we have to think about people in Europe, we have to think about people in Asia when we're thinking about economic decision-making. I'm going to suggest to you today that our thinking about energy is also a topic where globalization should impact us in a very significant way as Americans. And then when we think about self-interest well understood, when we think about searching for the common ground, our sense about commonality is to be as big as the globe. And we have to expand our thinking in a way where we're really interested about what's happening throughout the world, not just in Fort Collins, Colorado, or even just in the United States. We have to think about this. And why is that? It's because this issue around climate change and the science that supports it would very much say that human-caused climate change is connected to human impact on the Earth. So our activities on this Earth have a lot to do with the impact that is causing climate change. And you know, 97 different national academies of science have looked at this and come to sort of the same agreement. There's a pretty serious consensus among scientists. There are those who disagree, and I would invite you to read them critically, read both sides critically, come to your decision about this. But I would also say, having just come back from China and having traveled a lot while I was governor, there's only one place really in the world where a major political body is still debating climate science. It's the United States Congress. They're not debating climate science in China. There's no institution of government in sub-Saharan Africa debating this. Nor are they in Europe. And you can pick parts around the globe, and there is this consensus, and people are acting on it. And so I will tell you, it is our duty as people who care about commonality globally to think about this issue, for each of us individually to think about it, but then to look to our institutions of government and ask the question, how do we force the question? How do we move our institutions of government in a direction that addresses the significant global problem? I said the United States Congress is debating climate science, and really, for the last year, they've done virtually nothing as it relates to trying take our energy agenda in this country and marry it back to our climate agenda, our environmental agenda. The states are doing a great deal. You heard I run this center here at CSU called the Center for the New Energy Economy. We work with state governments to try and help them think about clean energy agendas. And really, there are 230 million people in America who live in a state with what we call a renewable energy standard, requiring energy suppliers to make some part of their portfolio for renewables. And so states are doing a fair amount. China, as I said, is doing a great deal. China put in place their 12th fifth-year plan last year, 12th five-year plan, and there's a variety of things in it where you can see there's this dedication to try and address serious issues that they have. And I'm not trying to make light of what remain significant problems in China. They are the world's worst emitter. They surpassed us a couple of years ago. They burned 50% of the world's coal. But they're also, in that five-year plan, looking at a variety of ways to take down their emissions while they kind of perform this high-wire act that involves increasing their economic activity and trying to move increasing numbers of people out of poverty because so many people still live in poverty. So they have significant issues that they are dealing with and have to deal with. But the fact of the matter is they have a national energy plan, and part of that national energy plan is very much looking to how they can reduce emissions because of the public health issues and because of the climate change issues. And as I said, state governments throughout the United States are doing things as well. The Congress is not. Congress is not. Passed automobile standards, fuel economy standards, a little over a year and a half ago, and they did that largely because the industry was willing to be there now. But I've talked to several different people who serve either in Congress or the Senate and said, you know what, we're going to do nothing in 2012 as it relates to significant energy policy. And my point to you, as citizens of this country, or as people here studying or visiting or working, we don't have the luxury to take a year off. We really don't have the capability as the nation with the largest carbon footprint per capita to take a year off. And what's so interesting about this is that while states are moving in a direction in many places with a higher use of renewable energy or things like energy efficiency measures that take down their energy use, trying to replace coal plants with natural gas, there's a variety of things that are happening. Congress does nothing. And the people of the United States want them to do something. There's this political disconnect in this country that's very difficult to explain. If you look at all of the public polling that has happened that relates back to how people feel about clean energy, and really, quite frankly, there's still a majority of people in this country that believe there's climate change, believe it's human cause. Has their support eroded over a few years? Yes. But support is not eroded for clean energy. Even the ability on parts of people to say, hey, we'd pay more for it. And yet, our institution of government in Washington, D.C., the Congress, fails to act. And worse than fails to act, says, we'll wait until we see what happens in November 2012 before we can move energy policy. Listen, we're living in a country that was founded on really sort of civility, and even transitions of government supposed to be civil. We don't have a sense, right, that we're going to change this country by going over some wall with a pitchfork, like they might have done in a revolutionary time in different countries. But in order for us to do those things, to be true to our American heritage, we have to make our voice known to the people that represent us in Congress. It should be intolerable for us as people, and when there's majorities and clear majorities who believe that we should have clean energy, believe that we should increase the use of clean energy, believe even in some instances, if it helps, sort of this nascent technology, that we might even pay more for it, that we should invest in research and development. People who believe that and yet have representatives in our House and our Senate who vote differently than how we think or how we believe. So what do? There's a couple of things we need to do, I think, as citizens. Number one, we can't look at this in the short term. A part of the problem that happens in Washington, D.C. and in Congress is that we do these 2-year threat analysis. Like what's going to happen every November, every other November, right? The first Tuesday in November. It's every 2 years. And that's the threat analysis. The United States military doesn't use 2-year threat analysis. They look at 2015 and 2020 and 2030 and 2050. And the United States military is the institution in the United States that's moving most significantly on trying to lessen the use that we make of fossil fuel energy. Because they realize that all aspects of it are really benefits to us to the extent we do. We import less oil, it's good for national security. We use more domestic resources, it's good for economic security, which in turn is good for national security. We're able to find ways to improve technology and become really the place in the world that can market technology to the rest of the world, and it's good for our economic security, which is good for our national security. And the United States military gets this. There's supposed to be 52 naval bases by 2025 that are zero net energy. And yet Congress debates this because the threat analysis is wrong. And what we need to do is to urge those people and urge them in the strongest voice possible to really act on an agenda that makes a difference, not just to the United States of America, but that makes a difference to people worldwide. The impact of climate change, if you look at those kinds of things that people who are the scientists will tell you, the impact of rising tides and warming temperatures, it's not just going to make it uncomfortable for us. In fact, in the United States, we'll probably have a variety of ways where we'll mitigate the worst parts of it early on. But there are some dire consequences that will be visited upon people in this world. There are dire consequences visited upon people really who already live in very much fragile states, if not failed states. The kinds of things that are part of warming very much can take fragile states and turn them into failed states. And again, we're part of this globe where self-interest, well understood, means we think about those people. It means we as Americans think about those, and we understand our role, not just because we're the largest sort of per capita carbon emitter in the world, but also because so many of the things that we've been proud of as part of our heritage make us a leader. As the governor, I've traveled and traveled and traveled, and people around the world would say, you know what, we're not really going to do anything until the United States does. We're waiting for the United States to lead on this issue. And if we don't lead, then we've lost an opportunity to be true to our heritage, which is to understand as broadly as possible self-interest well understood. And I think sitting here today, it's incumbent upon us as citizens to ensure that those people who represent us know our deep passion for this. And I think it's also incumbent upon us to read and understand as much as possible, and then to do our own threat analysis and ask, what role do I want to play in changing how we as a nation think about this, so that in 2020 or 2030 or 2050, I don't look back with regret. Thank you.